Uh, so tonight we get to hear from Deb Youngblood. Deb was from the class of 2019, which was the best class ever. So I'm told. I thought it was 21, but anyway, she's going to talk tonight as a new Texas water specialist. And she's been a familiar face to the chapter. She was our advanced training director post-COVID until this year. So I think she held that position for 3 years and stepped out of it this year. So she likes to say that she's always been interested in nature and learning, and she shares these interests with her grandchildren and others. And those others include a lot of us. I found that the Master Naturalist program is a good fit because I can continue to learn and share what I learned. These are her words. I enjoy photography, working with native plants and learning how to identify butterflies, birds, and bugs. I love water, and my goal each year on my birthday is to swim in a spring-fed pool. You left out a word. I'm a Texas water specialist because I hope to contribute to the preservation of Texas rivers. Deb, all yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah? Okay, good. Okay, I'll try to be as close as I can. Okay, so yeah, class of 2019. Guess what happened to me at the end of the class at 2019? No, I was asked, what are you going to do? And I didn't have a clue. I had no idea what kind of service I was going to engage myself in or anything. So when somebody invited me to go to Roberts Ranch and chop trail, I went. It turns out I'm not very good at chopping trail. So they taught me how to finish a trail, and I was much better at that, but still it was not my favorite thing in the world to do. But I stuck it out and I kept going back to Roberts Ranch. And finally, one day, Craig Childs, the guy that ran it back then, he says to me, Deb, can you come and photograph the workshop that we're going to have on Saturday? It's a riparian workshop. And so I said, sure, I can do that. Grabbed my camera and showed up on Saturday morning, and it really was a riparian workshop. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with that phrase riparian, that's that part of the land that it rides right along the side of the river or creek, and it goes up quite a ways sometimes, sometimes not. But you can see the changes in vegetation and when the riparian area transitions to the upland areas. So we spent all morning in class, and then he took us down to a little creek that is on Roberts Ranch. And the instructor for this class was Steve Nelly. For those of you who don't know who Steve Nelly is, he's practically, he's the go-to guy on rivers and streams and soil, and I didn't know that. But I soon learned, because when he was standing there talking to those folks about planting riparian plants and where to plant them, and then he hauls out this, I don't know what it was, but he whacked one of them in half, and it's like, oh, that's how you split it. I got it. I didn't know that, but I did. I learned fast. But all the time I'm listening to him and taking pictures. And they planted plants along the creek bank. Some were emery sage, some were switchgrass, and some horsetail. And then he moved on to another group, and they were planting black willow and sycamore. And all those things look like sticks. All the willow and the sycamore, they just look like sticks. And I thought, well, I won't have to take many pictures for long. So anyway, they asked me to photo document the growth of these plants that they had planted. That's why I was thinking, I don't know about that, but okay. So I went back once a month, every month for a year, and I photographed those plants, the ones that were growing along the creek side, and the trees that were growing with them. And then on the last month, I didn't get to go out because it rained. It rained big time. Okay. It rained big time on that last day that I was supposed to go out. It rained so much that I couldn't get out there. And so I had to wait a couple of days. And then when I went out, I was astonished. Every plant that they had planted along the creek bed had survived. But what was even more fascinating was that the river had risen, or the creek had risen so high that it had moved a huge tree trunk that had been downed, and it must have been about, I'd say about 25 feet long, and it was about as big around as a 55 gallon barrel, drum, and it had a huge system of roots sticking up out at the bottom, and it had been moved by that water from a place that was about 40 feet upstream. At that point, I was hooked. At that point, I wanted to learn all I could about water. And so, as the AT director for 3 years, I got to go to a lot of ATs on water, and I did, and I had a good time doing it. So I'm still hooked on water. I'm still hooked on rivers and creeks, and I'm kind of inclined to think that some of you are too. And the reason why I say that is because in every single county in our chapter, there's a river. Did you know that? I didn't, not until I sat down and actually looked at it on a map. And I have scrutinized that map. There are some that have several segments of river. There are some that have rivers that go all the way across them. There are rivers that go like this and join up, and that it was just amazing to discover that every county in this chapter has a river flowing through it. And in every one of those watersheds, there are creeks. Yeah. So some of you, I think, are probably already out there actively supporting your watersheds. And I want to find out who. So right now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to ask all the Texas water specialists in this room to stand up. And if they're at home on Zoom, I would like them to type in the word standing. Okay, so let's see how many we got here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5. How many do we have at home? 2. We have 7. That's not enough. 8, 9. Oh yeah, Mark. Okay. Okay, so 9. That's better than just 4 or 5. That's way better. So what it tells me though is that we need to develop a few more Texas water specialists because, gosh, there's a river in every county in our chapter and multiple creeks. So I want to ask this question of everybody who's still here with us, and those at home can type in standing. And these are for the non-Texas water specialists, okay? If you have in the last 6 months participated in a roadside or river cleanup, please stand and remain standing. Okay. And worked in a pollinator garden. Oh, you can stay up. If you've ever You worked a pollinator garden in the last 6 months. Phil, you need to stand up. Oh, you're a Texas water specialist. Never mind. If you have installed or helped a neighbor design or install rainwater catchment, stand up. If you've done rainwater catchment, stand up. If you've attended any kind of training on a riparian area, please stand up. Oh. Okay. Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay. Yeah. If you have attended a training on riparian areas, stand. If you've contoured your land or helped a neighbor to slow water runoff, stand. Okay. If you've conducted a workshop on water conservation, stand. Okay. How about planted some plants to slow down stormwater in the last year? Well, you guys are the most active ones right here. All right, please sit. But that still tells me that we have a ways to go, that we still need to develop some Texas water specialists. So, what is a Texas water specialist? It's a corps of well-informed volunteer specialists who provide education, outreach, and service dedicated to the beneficial management of aquatic resources and aquatic habitats within their communities for the state of Texas. Woo! That's a lot. Okay. But I think there are a few key things that you need to note in that definition. The first is it's a specialization. This is a specialization for Texas Master Naturalists and for volunteers in the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. So you don't have to be a Texas Master Naturalist in order to be a Texas Water Specialist. It helps, but you don't have to be one, because a Texas Water Specialist develops a special knowledge bank about water, about rivers and creeks. We develop it because we continue to educate ourselves regularly on water. We also do outreach. We offer our knowledge to the community and to schools, children, Boy Scouts, Lions Club, Rotary, anybody that will listen. I think some folks are a little tired of me buttonholing them and and telling them, but I keep at it. I'll convert them, and I know that they will stop filling their swimming pools. Yeah. Okay. So we'll talk some more about that. Also, we do service. We organize or participate in river cleanups, trash pickups along roadways. We work in riparian areas, planting trees and native plants. And we work in pollinator gardens, removing invasive species and more. Lots and lots of stuff that we do. So why become a Texas water specialist? Well, first of all, we do it because we're passionate and dedicated, and we're a role model. We're also a water ambassador. And we work to improve the watershed for the environment, wildlife, and people. Now let's start with role model. You got to be passionate and you got to be dedicated to be a role model, because, well, somebody's going to catch you not doing something sooner or later, so you better stick with it. A role model is one who really stays with the program. And you know, there are an awful lot of folks out there these days who don't really understand nature as anything other than something to be used or something to be dominated. As a role model for Texas water specialists, you can't think that way. it's not a good reflection of what we're supposed to be doing. In fact, what we should be doing is working as a part of nature. A water ambassador, as an educator. Now, some people are much more passionate about working with children, and that's awesome. That's great. Training up the next generation is important. But you know, there are an awful lot of us who are the landowners that need to be trained as well. So we are educating all the time as well as learning all the time. And finally, to improve the health of the watershed for the environment, wildlife, and people. We do that by communicating, clearing, cleaning, planting, and by advocating. So who can become a TWF? That's right. Yeah, you. Every one of you here can become a Texas water specialist. So if you notice from this picture, however, this is a really mixed group because let's see. We've got some Texas Master Naturalists in this picture. We've got some folks from Katie's Outdoors Women's group in this picture. We have some out-of-town Texas water specialists in this picture. And I think we've got a couple of civilians in there too. And we were all over cleaning on Town Creek just recently. And I think we've got some people who are at home tonight. I think Patricia is one of those who's at home, and she's a Texas water specialist too. Okay. To be a volunteer, you have to be at least 16 years old. I think you guys make it. Yep. Most of you. Otherwise, you're going to have to find your parents to get them to sign the permission slip. So, and by the way, we don't undertake anything that is hazardous. We simply wait and we find somebody who has the proper equipment and the wherewithal to remove it. So we don't do anything hazardous. So how do you get started? Getting started. Well, first of all, there's no formal application process. All you need are 8 hours of advanced training, and you can get it from watching live webinars or recorded webinars. Now, for all you Texas Master Naturalists who say, but we can't watch a recorded webinar and get credit for that. Well, no, you can't. But you can get credit for watching it as a Texas water specialist. And those are also available on the Texas Water Specialist website. Melissa probably has about 3 years worth of webinars out there, and they're all still good. You can also read the Texas Waters curriculum, Exploring Water and Watershed. So this is the book. You can also download it as a PDF, and you can read it and print it and read it, or just read it. Save a tree. And at the end of each chapter, there's a quiz, and they're pretty straightforward, comes right out of the curriculum. Another way you can get training is you can attend the Texas Waters Day at annual meeting. And that's actually really interesting because you go some places that you wouldn't normally get to go. And lastly, you can complete 4 of those advanced training hours by simply going to the chapter calendar and looking for ATs that have something to do with water and have that code AT:TX Waters certification training. and then you record those in your VMS account. That's pretty straightforward. But for those of you who are not TMNs, you're going, what's a VMS? Good question. So again, there's no application process. You just start getting the training. Now, before you can do that, you're going to need to do the paperwork. Unfortunately, I think that there's always paperwork, isn't there? So that's what you need to do is if there's actually a guide. It's actually online. I have a few copies for those of you who would like to have that. But it will tell you how to do all the sign up things you need to do. Like you've got to have a background check and you've got to do this confidentiality waiver and you have to agree to have your picture taken when you're working and sweaty and you have to sign an alternate workforce waiver. And then you get to create your account on the VMS system. And that's just a basically a computer program with a browser interface so that you can do it all online. And that's where you record your work. You will also need to provide your contact information and a little bit of experience about yourself. Once you've done all these things, well, then it's just exactly like it is for TMNs. You can watch the recorded webinars, the live webinars. You can read the book, or you can go to the Waters Day events at annual meeting, or you can attend annual trainings that are for certification, Texas Water certification. Now, somebody said, Yeah. Okay, so I want to talk just a second about the curriculum. Last year we had a class that started in March. I think it was March. And we finished up in early May. And what we did was 2 chapters every 2 weeks. And we met every 2 weeks. And then at the end of the class, we did a river walk where we actually got to go out and look at all the things that we'd been reading about. I thought that was great. And I enjoyed the class enormously. In fact, there was stuff in there that I learned that I wouldn't normally have been privy to. So it was very beneficial. I had given some consideration to doing a class in the fall, but we've got the new people class and we've got annual meeting coming up. So if there's enough takers for a class starting in August, we would work through till October. But we meet on Saturdays, so yeah, that might be a little iffy. If it's something you're interested in, let me know. Okay. Well, that's what we would talk about. We did most of our classes at Riverside Nature Center here in town, but then we did one in Bandera, and then we did one in, help me. Yeah, my house in Fredericksburg, but there was one other one, wasn't there? Patricia's house in Ingram. So yeah, we kind of ended up going to different places and it worked out really well because we got to see different kinds of water things. Because I live close to a river and Janice lived close to a hole. A great big hole in the ground. Yeah. And Patricia lives at the top of a mountain with lots of rock. And it was like really fascinating. I think every one of us wanted to go out there and reconfigure her yard somehow. So anyway, I'm getting sidetracked here. Okay. So once again, getting started, you have to record your work in your service and your training in the VMS system. And oh, I think I already did these, didn't I? Here we go. Now, to recertify, all you have to recertify is additional 10 hours of volunteer service. 10 hours of volunteer service for recertification. That's pretty easy to get. However, when you enter in your service, you have to make sure that it's very clear how was this service related to water. And you need to scroll down, and at the bottom of the entry, there's a little checkbox and it says Texas Water Specialist. Make sure you check that so that you can get that. Oh, see, that's what it's supposed to look like when you do that. Okay, and the same recertification criteria is required for Texas Water Specialists who are not TMNs. Same thing. So what kind of service? I just randomly pulled a few things off of our spreadsheet that David creates and has on the website. And those include things like roadside and riparian cleanup. And now they do that. They include cleanups because no matter where your trash is, if you've thrown it beside the road, it's eventually going to wash down to the river. End of discussion. So we have to keep the trash up and out of the roadsides. Texas Parks and Wildlife Department field research. Now, that one can be a little odd, finding somebody who's doing field research, but we have biologists in this chapter or working with this chapter who have projects. And if you find one that's got a project that you want to participate in, just ask. Also, you can go to Texas Stream Team at the Meadows because they do lots of training for people who want to take water samples and conduct this water quality tests. You can do Coco Ross, follow the weather. You can join a local alliance like Carolyn's Kerrville Water Association. Is it association or alliance? Kerr County Water Alliance. Or you can do the Pertinalis River Alliance. We don't have any that I know of in any of the other counties, alliances like that. We have pollinator gardens, though. There's one out at Doss. There's one in Kerrville. Bandera. Where else? Well, that's pretty good anyway. You can go to a state park and you can do public outreach. You can work at Friends of Guadalupe River and Honey Creek on their board. So yes, you can get credit for board work. Utopia, oh, there's another one. Utopia Library Pollinator Garden. So those are just a smattering of different service opportunities. But I'm going to say to you, look again at all these counties and all these rivers. Now, here's what I've learned. What I have learned is that if you are interested in the care of any given river or creek, you can start just by picking up the trash around it. You can get others out who can help you do that. You can do incredible things just by applying a little bit of energy and creativity. And let me tell you, it's going to make a difference. Because on this list, you have, let's see, in Kerr County, you've got the North Fork and the South Fork that come together to make the Guadalupe River. Okay. Now on the, in Bandera, you've got the North Prong. Is that a prong? Is that prong the north prong of the Medina, or is it the north prong of the Sabinal. Medina. Okay. You've also got Medina Lake. I think that's the only place with a lake. Well, I kind of figured that. I kind of figured that, but I put it on here because it still shows up on the maps as a lake. Now, if you also look, if you notice that the North Llano and the South Llano run together and form the Llano River, then there's the West Frio, and I think that's down there, East Frio, yeah. And those run together to make the Frio River. So, you know, even if you did one of those branches, you'd be making a difference to the whole river, the whole thing. One river that we don't talk a whole lot about is the Nueces. But if you've ever gone and sat in the Nueces on a hot August day, you know it's beautiful and it's worth fighting for. So those are the rivers. Find the people who care about those rivers and y'all work together. You may even find that some of the river authorities are interested in putting together a team of volunteers. Ah, what happened? How did I do that? Oh, thank you. Yeah, we just need to go down. Ah. Mhm. Okay. Okay. Okay, so this is the interesting part, I think anyway. The work that you do as a Texas water specialist does not necessarily count for service for Texas Master Naturalist. There are some occasions when it will, when there's a project code for whatever you're doing, like cross-county uh, trash pickup or pollinator gardens. There's codes for those. But if you're doing work that there is no code for, then you can, especially if it's on your own property, there's a code for putting that in. So suggested projects for your own home. Believe it or not, you can get credit for this for your own home. If you put in rainwater installation, if you do maintenance on your rainwater system, if you help a neighbor put in a rainwater system, if you build berms and swales to slow the water down, if you terrace your land to slow water down, or if you dig up all that concrete from those patios and put down a permeable surface, if you create your own pollinator garden for habitat for butterflies and bugs and all kinds of creatures, you can get credit for that in TWS, in Texas Water Specialist, and more, and more. So just remember, the annual renewal requirement is 10 hours of volunteer service, and that volunteer service needs to be associated with some kind of water, aquatic habitats, or in watersheds. That makes it pretty easy. And when you put in your report to VMS, you just need to make absolutely certain that your description talks about how this was done and what this project was done in relationship to water. So, what will you do? First of all, I can recommend this. Get your training done. It's only 8 hours of advanced training. and then I would recommend you also spend some time with the curriculum, because the curriculum provides you so much more than some of the webinars do. It goes into a great deal more detail, and it's just wonderful. Then choose what kind of service that you would like to do. If you want to specialize in riparian areas, then I wouldn't recommend a pollinator garden for you. I'd recommend service that is in a riparian area. If, on the other hand, you want to specialize in creating habitat, go for that pollinator garden. If you want to specialize in water quality, then choose either UGRA or go to LCRA for hopefully positions that are available as water samplers. Those are just a few of the things that you can do. So if you have a passion for something, just do it. Just do it. So why do we do all of this? Well, we do it because there's an awful lot of folks that need some education. We have a lot of new people coming to the area, and they really don't know much about our ecosystems. So hold on. I talked and never turned a page. Okay. Yeah, so this is my list of facts that are really important. The amount of water that single-family households in Texas currently use to water their landscapes could fill 590,000 football fields, each with 1 acre, with 1 foot of water. That's a lot of water. Studies show that homeowners tend to overwater landscapes by as much as 2 or 3 times the amount that's actually needed. In Central Texas, we tend to use 60 to 69 gallons of water a day per household to water just our lawns. Just our lawns. That's crazy. Now, this factoid came to me with a thing that said, and you need to reduce your water usage by 15%. And I say, quit watering your lawns. Plant some native grass. Plant native plants. Mulch. Quit watering your lawns. There's a lot of folks that come from Houston that don't like giving up their lawns. But I think we're going to have to. According to TCEQ, y'all know what TCEQ is? It's the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. If it has anything to do with the environment or the quality of water, they're the people you go to. So according to TCEQ, the average single-family home with 3 bedrooms and less than 2,500 square feet uses about 300 gallons of water per day. That's if they have water-saving devices on there. So the interesting thing about that little fact is that San Antonio has theirs reduced down to 140 gallons per day. That's quite a difference. And that's exactly where we need to be going if we expect our aquifers to continue to provide for us. So as a Texas water specialist, you have your work cut out for you teaching newcomers and old timers alike. But I think that if you actually work with the curriculum, and you'll find your feet. I know that sounds stupid, but you'll find your feet. You really will. After you do all this study and you start working on all these different projects and you start specializing as a water specialist, then you do find your feet. You find what it is you really are passionate about and what you want to do. And if you do that, We've got lots of outreach that needs to be done because of all the people that are coming here. And there's lots of service that needs to be done simply because that's where we live it. That's how we work it out as a role model. So one of the things I wanted to share with you all, apart from the curriculum, how to do it, all that good stuff, is I wanted to tell you a little bit about what we have been working on in Gillespie County. About a year and a half ago, I think it was, I attended a board meeting at the Hill Country Underground Water Conservation District. And I took a friend of mine with me. Her name is Catherine Peak, and she's a Texas Master Naturalist too. And we went there and we listened and we learned and we kept going back. And eventually they started talking about the rewrite to their rules. They started talking about the rewrite to their rules. So we found out what that was. They have rules about groundwater. Does everybody know the difference between groundwater and surface water? Yes? Anybody know? It's okay. Don't be embarrassed. Okay. No? Okay, I'll explain it. Surface water is water you can see. It's in rivers, creeks, lakes, ponds. Groundwater is what provides you with your drinking water from your well. It's from the aquifer. If you have a well, you've punched a hole in the aquifer and you are drinking groundwater. Now, most of, in fact, I'll say almost all of Gillespie County gets their drinking water from the Ellenberger aquifer. Some people get it from the Hensel aquifer, but mostly from the Ellenberger. So there are rules, some pretty tight rules about how you can drill a well, how it has to be registered, and how much setback it has to have from the street or from your neighbors, how much setback it has to have from a septic tank, and on and on and on. Lots and lots of rules. So when we heard that they were getting ready to rewrite their rules, we saw an opportunity because I thought their rules were confusing. It was hard to understand. And so they were thrilled, gave us a copy, and we went home and we rewrote their rules. We didn't change anything. We just made them a little easier to understand. And Catherine is a lawyer, so she got all the legalese right. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm a good editor. So we put that package together and took it back to them, and they published almost everything that we put in it. We were so pleased. But that also was the groundwork for a real working relationship with our underground district. So one of the things you can do is you can establish a relationship with your underground water district. And that is so important because people who don't understand where their water come from, they're never going to be able to reduce their usage because they don't get it. So most of these underground water districts do water conservation lectures and presentations. Well, we are now going to be doing water conservation presentations for the people in Gillespie County. Us, Texas Water Specialist, Texas Master Naturalist. That's what we're going to be doing. We are going to work with our underground water district for this. It's a great opportunity. And they will help us because they have models, they have pamphlets, they have all sorts of things to help us extend our message to other people. So that's one of the things that we're doing. But then in the midst of all that, we have been getting developers in who want to dump treated wastewater into the Pertinalis. Now, the Pertinalis used to be a pristine stream. It no longer is. The reason for that is that Fredericksburg has a permit that allows them to dump 2.5 million gallons per day into our river. Well, actually, they are doing that. Oh, will anybody use the gray water? Yeah, treated wastewater. I hesitate to call it gray water. It's treated wastewater, but isn't there a use for it? What can we water golf courses? And believe it or not, in the summertime, Fredericksburg's wastewater treatment plant sells almost all of their wastewater, and they water golf courses. They send it out to Boot Ranch. They have customers all over who need it for irrigation. And so that happens in the summertime. Anything that's left evaporates. It's only during the winter when it's really a crunch and they have no place to put it. Like if we rain a whole lot, well, then the soil can't accept more water and they have to find someplace else to offload that. But if it's just a normal summer for us, whether it's hot, they can usually sell it to a lot of people who need to water their plants. But you can do the same thing in your own home. You can get the water that comes off of your washing machine, your showers, your bathroom sink, and you can push that out to your garden. You can push it out to fruit trees. Some people don't like to put it on things like radishes and potatoes and things like that, but you can put it on fruit trees because the fruit trees plus the soil will clean that up. So there are things you can do to reduce your usage of water and wastewater. So anyway, we have had some companies come in with the intent of dumping wastewater into our river. And it became clear to us, to Catherine and I, that there was no one to speak up and advocate for the river. Well, we have put together an organization not unlike Carolyn's, and it's the Pertinalis River Alliance. We have been through one public meeting with one developer in TCEQ, and we have another one coming up in August. We fear that this is going to be a full-time job for us because development is going so fast. And I think the same is true. The same is true here, correct? Yeah. So my dearly beloved has pamphlets and little business cards for the Pertinalis River Alliance over here. He wants to get rid of them so he doesn't have to take them home. Yeah, but they'll just give you a hint about what we've been doing. And that can be done in any county. And I say by county, I know Carolyn addressed the county issue earlier. Is it just for Kerr County? Well, it's not just for Kerr and it's not just for Gillespie. However, our reach is only for Gillespie County. We are in discussion with some of the other alliances further downstream, but we have not solidified that yet. So we hope to be able to do that soon. In the meantime, we work with Greater Edwards Aquifer Alliance, and they with us. So there are things you can do. You're not alone. If you want help, if you want any guidance, I know Catherine and I would be happy to sit down with you and help you decide how to approach it in your own county. And just keep in mind the rivers that go through your county. They need you. That's it. Oh. Zero questions online. Anybody else have a question? Cheryl. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. There are other alliances. The Cheryl is asking what other alliances are out there, and they are there. I know that the Greater Edwards Aquifer is a huge umbrella organization of alliances, but for the Pertinalis River, I don't believe they have anybody in Johnson City, but if you skip down to the next county, Save Our Springs Alliance, trying to save Roy Creek Canyon. Have you guys heard about Roy Creek? Okay, it's a creek that flows into the Pertinalis, and it's on land that has never, ever been developed. It is all pristine. And the developer is putting in a huge development next door called Mirasol, and it it may well spell the ruin of Roy Creek. So Save Our Springs is somebody we are in conversation with to see if we can't extend ourselves a little bit. But I also go to the monthly meetings at the Blanco County Conservation. It's an I, but it's in Blanco every time at the Gem of the Hills, and they have an initiative. That's what it is, Blanco County Conservation Initiative, and they have a wonderful program going there, and they need it because they're almost out of water again. So, yeah. Hang on, I'm trying to think of a few more, unless you know of some others. Ah, okay. Carolyn has reminded me of Hill Country Alliance. They have been such a help to us, and I'm sure they have been for you all too. But Hill Country Alliance offers all kinds of training, assistance. Their water person is Marisa Bruno, and she's fantastic. She knows more than I can ever, she knows a lot. So a good candidate to sit down and talk with for sure. And they can give you assistance on developing your own alliance in your own county. Yes, ma'am. Ah, how does TW? Ah, yeah. Well, Texas Water Specialist is not going to hold them accountable. You probably have a water conservation person in your city or county, and you can simply report them, but I wouldn't do that. Not first. If you see somebody watering the concrete, it's not on purpose generally. It's because their little sprinkler heads have gotten all aimed it in the wrong direction and they haven't looked at it. They just don't know. So if you can find out who owns that business and go see them and just say, hey, this is kind of a problem. Nope, nope, that's not our job. Well, you are correct. It would be a nice thing to be able to do, but we don't confront anybody. We teach. And so if we have some issues like this that we know are ongoing, I would think of a water conservation plan that maybe addresses some businesses and maybe go to like Lions Club or Rotary and provide that information there. Well, I would say yes to that, except that we don't have the structure in the organization to be able to actually go out and confront businesses and try to educate them on the spot. So as much as I feel like sometimes that's what I'd like to do, I know better. I know better. And I do try to find more diplomatic ways of approaching them because, we have people coming in from all kinds of different parts of the country, and they often think that they should be able to do what they want with their water, especially when they hear that in Texas, you can do what you want with your water because it's in under your ground. Well, if you're in a city, no, that comes from city water, and that's a different ball of wax. But still, they come here and they do not like having restrictions on watering their lawns. They want to have all the water they think they need so they can water a lawn. You're right. There are drought restrictions, Carolyn, and that she's wondering if there's something that can be done about that. And yeah, you can report them. I mean, simple. You can just report them. But the better way is to find a way to connect with people and to teach them and talk with them. There was a hand in the back. Yeah, don't forget the creeks. Okay, so Katie is reminding us that if you want to do a cleanup on a creek, all you have to do get all the supplies down there and you can clean it up. Yes. It's advanced training. What is it for? Oh, is it this Wednesday? Okay. Okay. All right. I think what she's talking about is Greater Edwards Aquifer provides webinars, I think monthly on Wednesdays, and you can find them at just Google GEAA, and you can look for water wonks. I know it sounds weird. Water wonks. What's a wonk? Well, in this case, it's experts who know all about water, so they bring them in, and they have some pretty good webinars. But I will tell you, one or two of them have just went right over my head. Okay. So even if a water wonks lecture goes over your head, stick it out, listen to it, and then go back in another week or two and listen to it again because it's worth it. Yeah. Others? Bill, did you want to ask a question? Right. It's not about sometimes the wrong use of water or the wrong way to care for a riparian area is not malicious. Sometimes it's just that they don't know. They do not know. And this poor lady, she had her workers take the bulldozer out there and they'll level off a spot so that her band would have a nice level place to play. But what she did was she created a cut bank, which would be washed away entirely the next time the river rose. And I pointed out to her that it would also take out part of her neighbor's riverbank. And I said, that will be a lawsuit waiting to happen. And that got her attention. That is what made that is what made her say, "Can I put it back?" Yeah. And so If you can put it back, I told her where to go buy the native seed down at American Seed Company. We don't have a monthly meeting yet. I would love it. Yeah, I've been asking these guys if they would come to a meeting. But if we can get a few more people qualified, certified, yeah, let's do it once a month so we can talk about it. We can have our own special trainings. You bet. That's my goal. That is one of my goals.
So for those of you who are not water specialists yet, I'm not taking names, but how many new people want to be Texas water specialists now after that? So, hey, I see a few hands out here. All right, good. Thank you, Deb.